Are you writing at a minimum 10 pages a month for your dissertation? If the answer is no, then you definitely need to watch this live, because I have about 5 reasons as to why most likely you're not writing a minimum of 10 pages. And I'm also going to give you a process of what to do. If this sounds all of interest and you want to know how, keep watching, number one. But number two, join us this weekend for the 10 pages in 2 days writing retreat, because I'm going to be breaking down these steps in even more granular steps so that you can start to apply it. Okay, hello. As folks come in, let me know how you are doing and what is it like to be you. My apologies for being a few minutes late. There was a major accident, and I don't know what it is about Atlanta, and that the accidents are not just regular accidents. They are like movie scene worthy accidents. So I made it home. I'm gonna keep talking. So I find that people, students, when I'm working with them, there are 5 reasons that I typically find as to why they would not be writing consistently, or that they will not be producing at least 10 pages a month. Inside of the Finish Your Dissertation Institute, I have the expectation that you are either writing a full chapter every month, or you are completing a milestone, like collecting data or analyzing it or defending. We have high expectations, but we also have a process, like a checklist that students follow so that they can write 10 pages. And I know that the title of 10 pages in 2 days seems a little far-fetched for people, but whatever. If you're here, let me know. Are you someone who regularly writes 10 pages a month? Do you think it's possible for you to write 10 pages in 2 days? Even if you're watching a replay, let me know in the chat. Do you think that's possible for someone like you? And I'm just going to put a message. Enrollment. So comment FYD if you want to know more. Okay, there we go. So I would love to know if this is something like you would regularly do. Okay, so reason number 1 that I find is what people love to tell me is that I don't have the time, Dr. Lacey, I don't have the time to focus on writing. And in the group, that is why we follow a 10-hour-a-week schedule. Because I show people every day, you don't need as much time as you think. But the reason why it's most likely taking you a lot of time right now to write, it probably takes you 2 days to even get one sentence. If you could step back and you can really observe your behavior, you will notice that it's not taking you 2 days to write one sentence because you don't know enough. You might be telling yourself that you don't know enough, but the reason why you're only writing one sentence in 2 days is because you're spending most of your time questioning if you're doing it right. You're spending a lot of your time getting ready to write. You're spending a lot of your time trying to get inspired and motivated. And I think back to my experience, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube and Eric Thomas and like trying to find that spark and trying to figure out what I want to say and how I want to say it and waiting for the click. That's what I was telling people. I'm just waiting for everything to come together and click for me. Most of my writing time was waiting for the click that really never came. Which then brings me to reason number 2, and I'm gonna blew by. Okay, that was a mouthful. I'm gonna get to your comment in a minute. The second thing is you don't know. Like genuinely, sometimes you don't know enough to write the section. I particularly see this. This is not the literature review. So if you think you're in a literature review and you don't know enough, that's not it. But if you're in your method section, there's some things that you may not know because you're new to research, and maybe if you haven't had that many research classes, right? That's going to be a little bit more intensive in terms of let me go look this up and make sure that I'm doing this correctly. But people love to tell me, well, I don't know enough in the literature review, and I'm like, listen, sweetie, you've been reading this literature for years. So is it really true that you don't know enough? Or have you been in this habit of telling yourself that? So let me pause and look at your comment. Okay, I'm new here. I'm an EDD student, and I'm taking my first course, and I'm stuck completing a final paper that's due this Sunday. I'm nowhere near writing a dissertation, but my ears are open. Okay, so blew by. I'm going to get this. Oh, it's a tongue twister. Tell me a little bit about the topic of your final paper. What is the, is there a topic? Is there a goal? Tell me a little bit more about the assignment. And where do you think that you're possibly getting stuck? So we're going to do this together. If you even want to come on live, we could do that. But I know that's not for everybody. So let me know as much as you're comfortable in the chat. So reason number one why you're most likely not writing 10 pages in a month is you think you don't have enough time. Reason number two is you don't have enough knowledge. You think you need to read more. Reason number three, you don't have the energy to show up and produce at a minimum 10 pages a month. When I say energy, right, you might be like, people will tell me like, I have the time, like I took off of work, or I decided to pull it back for some things, and I have this weekend, or this every Friday I get to leave work early and I get to write. I have the time, I have my outline, I just can't write. And then I asked them, but how is your energy? Do you drink water regularly? Do you go to sleep? Do you eat meals? And they're like, yeah, I know I should be taking care of myself. I'm like, no, that's the only thing. That's the only thing. Like, we can have any conversation. If you already know what to do and you have the time, but you don't have the energy, what are you going to do? Force yourself to do something that you don't have the capacity to do? So those are the things of me being nice. Now, the other two reasons, it's not going to be so nice. The other two reasons why people have a hard time showing up and producing 10 pages, number one is arrogance. It's arrogance. You think you're more skillful than you actually are. And where I find this shows up as if you consider yourself to be the most ambitious one in your friend circle, or you're the one who's always doing something like, oh, you always trying to go after a goal. You're so used to being around people who can't even keep up with you that you have no idea what a challenge looks like anymore. You're so used to people being so easily impressed by you that you feel like this dissertation should be the same way. What I mean by this is like people will say, well, I already put in my hours. I've been working. I've done all the things. Like I almost see it as if people are approaching the doctoral process as they're like, I'm just waiting on these people to see how brilliant I am. I'm just waiting on them to see how hard I work. And I'm like, that's arrogance. And and reason number 5 is entitlement. For me, they go together. Arrogance and entitlement goes together. How you know you're in arrogance or entitlement is like, I'm going to tell you my process and your reaction is going to be, oh, that's too simple for me. That won't work for me. Oh, no, Dr. Lacey, you don't know my chair. And I'm like, I mean, what you're doing is not working. It's not. Maybe you should try it my way. So when students come into the Finish Your Dissertation program, I'm like, I'm going to break down this process. You're going to argue with me in your head. All I'm asking you to do is to try it out before you decide it doesn't work for you. And how I know if you tried it out or not, because you would come back to me and say, I wrote all these pages. If that is not happening, then I know you got caught up in your arrogance and your entitlement, and you think you know better. And I rarely say this, especially if you know me, if you've been following me, I rarely have this attitude where like, I got mine, you need to get yours. And the reason why I will go there, the west side of Chicago will pop out, is because people will try to tell me that's not gonna work. It's too simple. I'm like, I made it simple on purpose because I care about you as a whole person. And I don't believe that anybody has to work around the clock in order to get these huge goals. Okay, people in our group regularly win Dissertation of the Year awards. People regularly get fellowship and grants and special recognition in their field. Regularly. It's a regular occurrence in the Finish Your Dissertation Institute. So I know that this simple process works across the board. And I know that the students who don't do it, it's because you're more invested in proving that you're right than allowing someone to help you. And I get that you probably had a lot of experience and program experience really with faculty and whatnot, where you probably asked people for help, you asked them to explain things, and they made you feel bad about it. And it can be hard now when somebody like me is like, here you go. I'm on this internet right now. I'm on Instagram giving it away for free. I don't gatekeep. Right, I'm right here. I regularly show up and tell you everything that I teach into the program. Why? One, I don't get gatekeep, but number 2, I know that that's not the real thing. I know you think that you need a process and that will help you. But if you don't have the belief in yourself, if you don't have the belief that it's possible for you to get to the other side, if you are listening to other people who are like, if you were a real student, you would do it by yourself. Right, we got to talk through that. And I know that's going to take some more time. But I have plenty of people who DM me and say, listening to your podcast, watching the YouTube, listening to Instagram, I was able to become a doctor. Because for me, I care about people, and I care about people getting their goals. I want to work with people who need a different type of support, who know that they have high goals. Because think about it. If you're not only trying to become doctor, you're not only trying to do 3% of what the world has already done, but you're also like, I want a Dissertation of the Year award. I want a tenure track position. I want to have a business. I want to, whatever the goal is. And if you don't have people around you who have done that, or who are willing to sit with you and explain, how do I set myself up for success right now? And how do I continue producing at such a high level so I don't burn myself out? If you don't have anyone around you helping you to do that, it's going to be almost impossible to get there. So I created a program for people who are like, yeah, I do want to be doctor, but I also want to do all these things, but I want to do it in a way where it's not going to land me in the hospital. That is my specialty. I will tell you how to do the most impossible things in a very step-by-step, simple way. Why? Because I'm regularly doing things that I'm like, I mean, people told me I couldn't do it. I'm about to try. Watch me. Which is why I started a whole ass business. When my chair told me, girl, you only have 2.5 months to apply to IRB, collect your data, analyze that data, write up all your 5 chapters, and submit to me a whole draft of your dissertation. I had from January 1 to March 6 to do that. And where was I? Oh, let me sign up for this business program. I'm going to have a job when I get done. That was my thinking. I'm like, I'm going to do this dissertation and I'm going to have a job. For a lot of people, how would I even think about doing both at the same time? And then actually do both at the same time? That is me regularly. I love doing what people think are impossible, because I love trying to figure out, okay, how would I explain this to someone else? How would I break this down into individual steps so other people can do it and they don't have to struggle in the same way that I do? My program isn't to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. You need, I am very empathetic, but I'm going to challenge you to play at your best. If you thought that going into school and you thought this doctoral process, and in many ways you thought this dissertation was going to be a challenge in the sense of testing you on your knowledge or helping you to become this person who's just on top of it, who's like organized, and is like the go-to person for everyone. If you thought that this dissertation was going to do that for you, you're probably a little bit disappointed, probably a lot of bit disappointed, because how people train you to do the dissertation is like, okay, there you go figure it out. But if you never had to do this for yourself, how are you supposed to figure it out? When you come into a program like Finish Your Dissertation, I'm like, here you go. This is how you set up your week. This is how you set up your day. This is what you tell your chair. This is how you tell them what they're going to do. This is how you tell other people to help. This is how you delegate. This is how you make sure you have time for rest, self-care, your family, other people, hobbies, and for you to go mind your business, do whatever you want to. And this is how you perform at a high level. That is my specialty. Okay? Let me know if you have questions though. Okay, ethical leadership practices, including mindfulness and not leading with fear. I'm definitely dealing with some arrogance and imposter syndrome combined. Also, way too shy to go live. I understand. Okay, so ethical leadership practices. Here's how I like to think about this. Like whenever I'm writing something, especially if I'm a little bit like, oh, I don't know if people gonna understand. Why is it important for a leader who wants to be ethical to not lead with fear? Like if you had to sum that up in one sentence and you were going to talk to like a 5-year-old about it, how would you explain to a 5-year-old why it's important, if you're going to be an ethical leader, to not lead with fear? So some things you're going to have to think about as you're thinking about the sentence is, what does it mean to be ethical? What does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean? What does fear mean? And on the surface, the questions I'm asking you are like, well, duh. Don't everybody know that? No, because we're explaining it to a 5-year-old. This is for other people too. So if you're writing today, I need you to clock what I'm giving you. How would you explain it to a 5-year-old why it's important that an ethical leader not lead with fear? So you have to think about the definitions and then think about how you would sum that up in a simple way that a 5-year-old could understand. And then I'll give you the next steps from there, because that might take you a few minutes. Right. So here's the scholar writing routine. It's 5 steps. Step number 1 begins with a plan. So on Sundays, we meet and we make a plan for every week. That plan needs to be so detailed and so clear that you're able to look at it and get to writing 60 seconds or less. Now, if you like me, you got to have 50 million drinks and snacks, okay, maybe 120 seconds. But in no world should you have a weekly plan in the way that we use the Scholar Planning Routine. In no way are you following the Scholar Planning Routine and you're not unable to get to work in 60 seconds or less. That means you need to go back. You need to have somebody to review your plan. Because the way we do plans will say, like, so if I'm with Fly Blue By, right, the plan might say, write 2 shitty paragraphs about defining ethical leadership. Write 2 shitty paragraphs about the common practices in ethical leadership. Write 2 shitty paragraphs about mindfulness in leadership. Right, you get what I'm going? Like, you would plan out your plan in such a way that it makes it very clear, like, oh, for this writing session, I'm supposed to focus on my mindfulness section. Right? So step 1 is to look at the plan and be like, okay, I'm going to write 2 shitty paragraphs about mindfulness. Step number 2 then is you will put your phone on do not disturb, airplane mode, whatever your choice, but you want to remove as many distractions as possible. You're going to put your phone on do not disturb. You're going to set your timer for 25 minutes. And I do mean, I'm giving you step by step, set your timer for 25 minutes. Open up a new document. I don't care if you use Google, Word, whatever, Pages, whatever you use. Open up a new document. Type at the top 2 shitty paragraphs about mindfulness. Hit the timer and you do not stop typing until that timer goes off. So you may go past 2 paragraphs. That's fine. You may be talking about, you might start slipping into ethical leadership. You might start slipping into like fear. Doesn't matter. Keep typing. Keep typing until that timer goes off at the 25-minute mark. Once it goes off, you get up. You walk around, you go get a drink of water. If you live with other humans or anything with a heartbeat, go talk to it. Take at least 5 minutes of a break because you need to give your brain a chance to reset. After that break, you're going to come back to that document. You're going to set another timer for 25 minutes. And this timer, I would argue, is more important than any other timer because people get beside themselves. Because now, you most likely, if you allowed yourself to type and you didn't go and read anything and you didn't go look up anything and you didn't spend time being like, I don't even know if what I'm saying even makes sense. If you didn't try to edit while you were writing, if you truly showed up and just free wrote for 25 minutes, you most likely have a good page or 2 of like a block of text, right? It's just a bunch of words. This second 25-minute period is for you to now go through that. It's to read through it. So what I do is I have my computer read it back to me. I use the accessibility function. Every device has it, and where it will read out loud to you. Because when you try to read something silently in your head, it does not sound the same when you have to read it out loud or you have to hear somebody else to read it out loud. And it's going to be cringy because it's shitty. That's the point. It's going to be cringy. But your job in this 25 minutes is remove the things that are absolutely not related. Like, because sometimes I have like grocery lists or I start writing song lyrics in there because I just let my ADHD do its thing. Right, so I remove all the things that don't even matter. If it's like a grocery list, and I'll just transfer it to another page. If I started writing things like, oh, I want to go look this up or I want to go read this, I move it to my document that's called the parking lot document. A parking lot document is for, especially if you have ADHD or if you have this template, like you're tempted to go do something, you put it on the parking lot document because your brain just wants to know that you're going to remember it, but you don't need to stop your progress to go look up something, because if you stop and you try to go look, you're going to lose focus. So we just put things on a parking lot document. For the rest of the things, I am trying to group it into paragraphs. I'm not doing a heavy edit. I'm just grouping things into paragraphs, and then I'm going to run the spelling and grammar check. Whatever the processor already has, I'm going to do that because I'm trying to remove any red or blue squiggly lines so that my ADHD is not like, oh, we must fix it. No, you don't. That should take you a solid 25 minutes just to clean it up, put it in paragraphs, and run the spell check. Get back up. Now we're at about an hour, right now. Now we're at the hour, and within the hour, you have a solid probably page, 2 pages of writing. It's in paragraphs, and at least it's spelled correctly. You can decide to stop right here and then pick it back up for another writing session. But if you're in the zone, then you keep going. Now we're gonna set the timer again for 25 minutes. Why do we set timers? Well, the timer gives you a starting point and an end point. The timer also gives you the sense of urgency that you need, that you only have this 25-minute block to do this one task. Right? You only have 25 minutes to free write. You only have 25 minutes to run the spell check. What a lot of you are doing is giving yourself too much time in the writing process. You're giving yourself too much time to like, oh, this is so hard. I don't know what I'm doing. Let me go read. I gotta go do this. Ooh, let me go check the email. You don't have enough boundaries with yourself. When you use a timer and you put things on do not disturb, that is you having boundaries with yourself. The more that you're able to have boundaries with yourself, the more you have boundaries with other people. And cough, cough, wink, wink, the less you'll stop saying yes to shit you don't want to do. Because we didn't even get there. Why? That's really why the people don't have no time to write, because they're doing everything else for everybody else. But that's not what today's conversation is about, right? So now we are on our third writing block, our third 25-minute writing block. If you notice, I am using the Pomodoro method because it works, especially if you have a lot of neurospiciness. So we're in our third block. In this block, this is where you want to edit. And here's what I mean by edit. You want to think about, go back to like undergrad, or go back to like maybe even your master's program where you forgot about a paper that was due and it's due at 11:59 and right now it's 11:30. You already know you're going to be a little bit late, but if you can at least get this paper to about a C level, you're going to count your losses and be okay with it. That's the type of energy I want you to have in this third writing block. The goal of this block is to say, how do I get this as solid and clear as possible without reading anything, without looking up anything? Because you have noticed that we're on writing block number 3. We ain't looked at not one article. This is a part of the process of you learning how to trust yourself, learning how to trust the words that you put on the page. So this third writing block, you're going to make sure the paragraphs are structured. You're going to make sure you have a thesis sentence or a topic sentence. You're going to make sure that this one paragraph only covers one idea. This is probably where you're going to spend the bulk of your time just trying to get this solid. So this may take a good 2 or 3 25-minute blocks, because the type of structure and the type of making sure that you're clear takes a lot of energy. So this is why I recommend that people do this as a whole separate writing session, because you want to make sure your mind is fresh. But we're not reading anything. We're making sure our ideas are clear. Because when we get to our fourth writing block, this is where we go find the literature. The reason why you don't start with literature, how do you know what to read? How do you know, should I read this article versus this article? How would you know that? If you don't know what it is that you're trying to justify or defend, right? We go look for citations because we're trying to back up what we put on the page. But if there are no words on the page, what are you backing up? So I never understood why people would start with reading when you don't even know what you're justifying. Like, you don't even know what to read. You don't even know. Just because it's about your topic doesn't mean it's appropriate for this particular manuscript. Right? I can go read a bunch of things about mindfulness. It doesn't mean that I'm going to use it in ethical leadership. So we get our ideas clear first, and then we go to the literature. But you don't go and get all 70 articles that you have on your computer. You start with 5 articles at a time. You need less literature than you think. And what people do is you get real comfortable. You get like, oh, I just like reading. I know how to read. I know. You get real like, I'm doing my notes and highlights and whatnot. And you put all those hours in reading and you got nothing to show for it. You don't got no 10 pages at the end of the month because you've been reading the whole month. And you're still no clearer on what it is that you need to write, even though you did all that reading. So we start with our ideas. We get our ideas clear. We learn to trust that we're not new to this. We're true to this. Okay, somebody catch it. You've been reading about this topic for forever. You know a lot about this topic. Fly Blue by, I'm assuming that you wouldn't have chosen this topic if you didn't know anything about it. Right? I'm assuming that nobody just was like, you must write about this and this is your first time ever approaching this. The way that you wrote the topic lets me know that it's not your first time engaging with it. So then you can trust that you at least know enough to be able to write a D or a C level paper, because that's what we're trying to do in these first 3 writing blocks. We're trying to get it to a C or a D level, and then we're going to improve on it. The literature is going to bring it up from a C to a B. And then we're going to get to step 5. And step 5 is after you read and you use that for your citations. Now you're going to do one final editing and formatting session. This formatting session is going to make sure you have headers. You have, if you're depending on your style that you use, like APA, you're going to make sure that's good to go. And you're going to turn it in. You're going to give it to someone who's like a safe reviewer, or you're going to give it to your chair. But you must give it to someone, because you have been looking at it too long at this point. And so you have to give it to someone to see how are they understanding your ideas. When they give you feedback about how they understand what it is that you wrote, that is going to be your next to-do list for your next writing session. You're just going to respond to their edits, and you're going to keep doing that until your chair is like, okay, time to defend. Right? That is simple, but it will help you. It will help you put words on a page. Okay, so this is good advice. Geez, I'm neurodivergent too. So Fly Blue By, did you give me a sentence about ethical leadership practices, including mindfulness and not leading with fear? Okay, I get 8 papers. I'm just unmotivated to finish. I'll probably finish it in a manic rushed episode, and that's fine. It's not a problem. Here's really where people start to they get so mad at me. But here's what I want to offer you. What if it's your process to write in a manic fashion? Like, what if that's something that will never change about you? What if you're a person who gets a writing assignment on the 1st of the month and is due on the 30th of the month, but you don't even start writing until the 29th of the month? What if that's just your process? What if you just plan for that moving forward? Anytime someone gives you a deadline, just know that you won't start it until 24 hours before. What if it's not a problem? Now I can hear somebody, I can see your faces too, even though I can't really see you, but I can hear somebody in my ear being like, well, that's not going to be my best work. That's how I'm not going to be doing, like, I'm not going to do doctoral level work if I'm always waiting 24 hours before it's due. And my thought of that is, but that's what you're doing right now anyway. I'm just asking you not to shit on yourself. I'm asking you not to like go into feeling guilty and shameful, because that's just wasted energy. I'm asking you just to be like, yeah, that's just my process. It's just who I am. What if you just accepted it? Then somebody will say to me, but then I won't change it if I accept it. Is that true? How do we know that's true? Have you ever just accepted it and then you saw what happened? Because here's what I know. Once you accept that this is how I work, and you let yourself be calm about it and you don't make it a problem, now you have more energy to be like, but what if I did it 48 hours before, not 24 hours? Because you're not so exhausted from constantly staying up at 3 o'clock in the morning being like, why are you so lazy? Why you didn't do this? You should have did this. You're not doing all of that because you like, my process is my process. So I just got to the point where I just started telling people, hey, give me your real deadline. Don't give me a deadline. Don't say it's due on the 30th of the month and you really want it on the 15th of the month. If you really want it on the 15th of the month, you need to tell me that, because the way that I work is I'm going to wait all the way up until the deadline and then I'm going to do the thing. But if you were expecting it to be early, that's just not how I roll. And people used to try to say, well, you need to change. Why? Why do I need to change to be like you? Why do you think your way is better? Now, people get real uncomfortable when you get direct, but I'm like, I'm not from the South, although I lived here. I'm not. I'm direct. In Chicago, we're direct. So I used to tell people, you either give me your real deadline or you're going to be disappointed. I'm not about to shame myself because that's how I work. So you got to give me your real deadline. That means you're forcing people to communicate their expectations. You're forcing people to put down their own boundaries because you're so clear with your own boundaries. Part of having boundaries is us accepting this is who I am, this is how I show up, and because this is who I am, this is the type of environment I need. It's not for other people to understand. It's not for other people to agree. It's if you know that you do your best work in this moment, you do your best work in a manic episode, then you do your best work in a manic episode. Let's not shame it. That's what you do. So you can, and it's more about then how do you prepare for that, right? So what tells me, tell me if you're comfortable. What does it look like for you to be writing in a manic way? Like, where are you? What are your non-negotiables that you must have if you're doing that? So how my periods used to look, especially like in school, I would wake up, like say the paper was due, like the day of that it was due, I would usually wake up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would give myself like 2 hours to be like, I'm going to write this paper and that's going to be it. And maybe I would wait until about 2 hours before it was due to look over it one more time. But I knew that my anxiety most likely was going to wake me up anyway. So since it's going to wake me up, okay, how do I just let the morning be so good? Like if I know I'm going to wait until the morning of, okay, how do I make that morning even more special? Do I have my candles, right? Do I have my tea? Because if I'm waking up that early, I'm usually doing tea and not like strong caffeine yet. Like, do I have a playlist, like a good lo-fi playlist? Because if I'm going to write manically, I might as well do it comfortably. Who says that we have to write it? Because the alternative is you waking up the morning of and being like, you should have did this. Why did you wait? Why are you always doing this to yourself? Right? And that conversation may still happen, but I'm asking you, what else do you need to support yourself, knowing that this is your process? When we make peace with who we are, we can set up our environment and we can give ourselves the things that we need, because we're not shaming ourselves, we're helping ourselves. Okay, you yelling at me is very helpful and motivating. I like your lifestyle of communication. Listen, I try not to. This is me trying really hard not to yell. Okay, it is. Okay, I feel stressed. I literally finished the first half of my capstone in 3.5 days, and I don't know why I'm like this. Because you like a challenge. You like a challenge. Like, what if you approach, and I don't know if where you are, like master's, doctoral, but if you have something else coming up, and it's shorty, if you have something else coming up, like a larger project or a paper or a dissertation, what if you just plan for, yeah, I'm going to wait and I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to do a sprint. If you already know, I'm most likely going to do a sprint. Okay, how do I prepare for that sprint? In the same way that a boxer trains for a boxing match, right? They train for like 8 months to a year for something that's going to take a couple of hours, right? Beyonce was rehearsing for 8 months for a 3-hour show. How do you then rehearse to get there? What I mean by that is, like, do you need to make sure that the week leading up to like the due date, like you go to sleep early so that you can at least be rested? Do you need to set up like some writing groups that last week so that you know that you have a designated space to go to and you can write? Do you need to call some people and say, hey, I'm going to be working on, let's just use your capstone. I'm going to be working on my capstone. It's going to be down to the wire. Can I depend on you to review this on Thursday night and give it back to me by Friday morning? Could you do that a week before, 2 weeks before? Right? Because if we're asking people early enough and we're giving them clear expectations, like, yeah, girl, I'm going to write this on Thursday night. I'm going to give it to you, and I'm asking you to give it to me on Friday morning. Right? You're setting yourself up. So we're not shaming ourselves. We're not saying, why can't you be better? Instead, we're like, listen, this is just who I am. I'm going to set myself up for success so I can still turn in my best work. That is where I'm trying to get you. You're still going to turn in your best work because you're focusing on what do I need to ensure that this is my best work. For most of you, more time is not what you need. For most of you, you don't need to start earlier. That's going to actually cut off your creativity. If you can stop shaming yourself for your process and just be like, this is my process. What do I need to set myself up? You will go further. And that's a lot of what we do in the group. I spend a lot of time being like, why is that a problem? Why is it a problem that you just started it? Why is it a problem that you've only written 1 sentence in 2 months? Why is that a problem? Because that sounds a little ridiculous on the surface, but when you actually sit with these questions, you're going to be like, yeah, why is it a problem? And you'll realize that you have somebody else's voice in your head. Either a parent, your chair, maybe that one student in your cohort that you like, they always on top of it. It's you thinking, oh, this is what they're going to say, or this is what they would think about it, or they would think I'm lazy, or they'll think I'm not committed, or they'll think fill in the blank. but it's not your voice, but you are now responding to a fictitious voice in your head that's not even yours. It's not even how you think. It's not even what you believe about yourself. But now you're starting to adopt those beliefs because you keep replaying that tape. But instead, what I'm asking you to do is shift it, reframe, and be like, it's my process. What do I need? What do I need? Okay, dining room table, lots of snacks and drinks, lo-fi hip hop in my headphones. Are there a certain type of headphones you need? Like, if I'm going to be writing, I can't use my earbuds. I have to use the over-the-ear headphones. This is the level of detail I want you to go into. What headphones do you need? Is there a particular hip-hop lo-fi? Or it doesn't matter? Does it matter if the dining room table is clean? Does it matter if there's anybody else in the dining room? Because I don't know if you live with anyone. Does it matter if the overhead lights are on? Do you need candles? Do you need lamps? What about smell? Do you need a certain smell while you're writing? And I just go without sleep until I finish and crash. Okay, so if you're going to go without sleep until you finish and crash, can you take off the following 2 or 3 days after you submit? Like anytime you have a deadline, you just take those days off. Like I have a client who every time she speaks, she gets there a day early. She always has a steak dinner the night before. She goes to the entire event, wherever she's speaking, and then she always has an extra day to decompress before she travels. Because she knows transitions are hard for her, but she loves speaking, but the traveling and the constant transitioning is hard. She just built in a process to support her. So that means I get there early, I have a day to decompress, I have the same meal so that it feels comfortable, it feels familiar. I go do my thing, I hang with the people, afterwards I rest, and then I get to go home and feeling refreshed. I'm asking you to similarly do the same thing in your writing process. My professor says at the end, okay, yeah, a lot of you say I work best under pressure. This is how you prepare to work best, like even better under pressure. So I want you to think about, okay, no time off. I have a family with young kids. I work full time as well. Yeah, I want you to consider though. And I don't know your situation. I'm just going to name some things. Is there like PTO? Is it a job or a situation with your supervisor that you're like, hey, on this day, I'm going to come in an hour later, even if it has to be like you make it up somewhere in the back end. Most likely though, if you found your way into my role, you're probably doing way more than what they're compensating you for. So I very much would say, go ask a conversation. The worst they can tell you is no, but it's worth the try to be like, I'm going to come in a little late. Is that all right? All right, thanks. Or I'm going to take a half a sick day. Because it's your time that you worked for. You got compensated for. And I know because you got young kids, you probably didn't use those sick days. And you're probably like hanging on for them for dear life because flu season is here. So I get that. But is there a way that you can work out something with your job? If the answer is still no, are there any friends, any people in your village that you can be like, so hey, I got this deadline coming up for this paper. Can you take one of them? Can you entertain them? Can you go in the other room with them for a few hours just so that I can be please and thanks? And you know your kids better than I do, but like, is there a way that you can, this is where we like, hey, community, help me. Okay, I definitely flex my schedule. I just want to save my days. I get that. Because, kids are germ magnets. And I don't know. I think we should just spray them with alcohol. I don't even know if that will work. But they just constantly have germs. But even just the way your brain is going now, right? You're starting to think about different ways that you can support yourself. So everybody else, how can you support yourself for the way that you naturally show up to the writing process? If you are someone who you do need a lot of time to transition into writing, okay, how do you block that off? How do you stop setting up your calendar for being like, oh, I only need like an hour on Tuesday when you really need 3? Because it's going to take you a whole hour to like settle down enough to write. And then it's going to probably take you another 30 minutes to like, okay, no, but for real, we're writing. And then you're going to get into the writing process. Like, how do you help yourself? because my family members don't care. They are a bunch of haters. And it's fine, but do they care about the babies? Because I feel like family tend to care about babies, right? So I would be like, oh, don't you want to spend some one-on-one time? Even if you have to be like, you're going to go over here, y'all going to go watch, or y'all going to go to this like library like reading session around the corner. It's 20 minutes. They're gonna read a book, they're gonna go touch some things, and they can come back, right? I'm asking, like, are there any things like that too? I can't flex my schedule, but I can use my lunch break. Yeah, I've had plenty of people write their dissertation on the lunch breaks. It's making me think about Gabby Mallet, who she is an associate vice provost. She serves on her church like leadership board. She has 2 sons. I mean, they're older now, but they were about middle school when she started. A whole husband who started a business, was like working multiple jobs, and so she just had a lot that she was juggling. So we only had a solid 4 to 6 hours every week to get the dissertation done. A lot of that was on her lunch break, or some of that would be she would stay at work 30 minutes longer and just do a couple of shitty paragraphs, and then she would go home. And you might not think that's enough, but when you know, okay, I have these little people at home, or I got all these people who are dependent on me and these responsibilities, I only got so much time. When you do right, it'll force you to like just get to work, because you know I only have 30 minutes to do this. So Gabby was like, I only got 30 minutes, so I gotta just read this article and write my shitty paragraph and go home. Once we had a system and we were having conversations like this, then she was able, y'all, I'm sorry, I hope you don't get motion sickness. I had to let my dog in because he's been outside for almost an hour, and I forgot, don't call PETA on me, because I just forgot that he was hanging outside. Okay, but because we did this, we had this conversation, she was able to set herself up, and she was able to finish her dissertation, only working about 4 to 6 hours the entire time through. So I'm asking you to do some processing about what it is that you need. Okay, it's just my husband and kids that support me. They don't care, they raise their kids. I get that. Grandparents are brand new. They aren't like my grandparents who were with us. I get that. And sometimes, right, I don't know if you're waking up in the morning to do the dining room session. I don't know if it's a late night session, but even if you have to wake up, because I know you said sacrificing sleep earlier, even if you have to sacrifice sleep, how do you make that more as enjoyable as it can be to sacrifice sleep? I know I'm using some words that are kind of contradictory, but like, how can you support yourself, right? And it may be that you just make peace with it's gonna be a hard 3 days, but after this 3 days, I get to do something XYZ, right? So it might not be sleep in because you got little kids, young kids, but is there a show that you like to watch? Is there like a favorite restaurant, like Crumble Cookie or something that you know, like, oh, I'm gonna get this cookie and this is my reward? I'm really big on having rewards for when you're doing hard stretches of time, because it will motivate you through. We often think that, oh, I don't need a reward. It's good enough that I did it. Your nervous system does. Your nervous system would like you to give it a reward, because it had to sacrifice sleep, and it had guilt, I'm sure, comes up a little bit. I'm sure annoyance comes up a little bit. Frustration about like, oh, why did I do this? Why did I say I wanted to have this goal? I want to be with my kids, or I just want to be sleeping in, or I just wish I was doing anything other than sitting at this dining room table writing this. So you're going to have some carrot that you dangle for yourself. And it needs to be something that current you thinks is superficial or frivolous. Current you is not you at that dining room table. You at that dining room table is going to be grateful. So if you're like, ooh, what did you say? Okay, like yoga. Right, so my thing used to be hot yoga. I used to reward myself when I lived in Milwaukee. I reward myself with hot yoga every Saturday, because it was the one place where my phone couldn't ring, because you can't even bring your phone. It's too hot. It's going to damage it. And I knew that if I did not have the energy for anything else, I could just lay there and cry, and nobody was going to be able to tell anyway, because it's hot yoga. Everybody is sweating from every orifice, okay? And so a lot of times it was just an emotional release from a hard week of working 50, 60 hours as a director of a women's resource center, and plus trying to build a business. I just needed that, and that was my reward. I loved it. Loved it. Like, I still am looking for a place like that place for hot yoga, and I still have yet to find it. But yeah, if yoga is your reward, it's your reward. Okay, I skip a day after I turn in my assignments and hang with my kids. And is there, like, even when you're hanging with your kids, like, what is their favorite thing? Or is there a childhood show or movie that you used to love to watch? Like, whatever age your kids are, where were you at that age? Like, what did you love to watch? Was there a book you loved to read? Was there an activity you loved to do? And what if you did that with your kids? Because your inner child at that point is like, now you done made me sit at this dining room table. You put me on punishment. You made me write all this stuff. You made me do all this grown-up stuff, and I don't want to do it anymore. So is there even a thing that you can do like that? I love telling people, like, go watch Inside Out. I know that's probably not a joyful movie, but I love it because it talks about emotions. And Sade is here. I used to be like, go watch this with your kids. The way I be watching movies with, if I had kids, they'd be so annoyed with me. We are watching this. Bowling and go-karts is what we do. It's a great stress relief. Yeah, I love that. And you might want to, I don't know if you have a picture from the last time or one of the times y'all went bowling or y'all went go-karts. But even having that picture next to your laptop or on a dining room table or bringing it close to you, it makes a difference. Because on that moments, like in late night, like when it's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and you're like, oh, I'm only halfway done, you're going to look at that picture and you're going to be like, okay. When I'm done, I'm going to have the day off. We're going to go bowling. I get to scream. We get to look at their little faces and their little laughs and the way they put things together. Because, you know, little kids be putting things together. It'd be wild. They're just like, it's true. That was true. But I would have never thought about it that way. Is there something like that? Yeah, just put it right there and remind. And even if they have like a favorite song that's like been getting on your nerves, like I don't know if the kids are still listening to Baby Shark. I hope not, because they got enough play. But you may find that you might start listening to that while you're writing because it's just helping you. It's reminding you. I have a reason to do this. I have a reason, right? These sacrifices are going to be worth it, and I still get to spend time with them. I still get to have joy in this process. I still get to make it to the other side. This is going to be great practice for when you do get to the dissertation. You're going to already have the system dialed in. So you're going to know exactly what you need to do, which then is how we get to have conversations like, what if you finish your dissertation in 6 months? What if you just cut the time in half? People are like, what? I'm like, yeah, because you already set yourself up. You already know what works for you. You already have a routine that gets you to work and make sure that you produces, and it honors how you naturally show up. Yes. And I love, like, Sade, I'm glad that you're here because I love to use you as an example. The way, I don't know how she does everything that she does, okay? I don't. She got 2 little kids. She'll be like working out in the morning. She'll hold nurse. I'd be so confused. I'm like, I got me and a dog, and I'm barely over here making it. Yet you did all this stuff in a day. But she has a very good reasons why she's doing each thing, and she makes sure to reward herself. Because my friend always got like a photo shoot, a nice bag, okay? A new unit, a new bust down. Like I'm living through her. But that is why she's able to do so much at such a high capacity and get highly recognized for it, because she works with the way she naturally shows up. Girl, you ain't trying. I'm not a runner, but running provides clarity and allocated my anger and frustration. Yeah, so we're similar in that I need to go do something. Whenever I'm having like a big, like a work period, like an intense deadline, I have to go do something with my physical body. Okay, I got an Aries moon for my astrology people. Aries must do something. I need to throw a weight around. I need to go box. I need to hit something. I need to do something with a lot of force, and that's going to exert all my physical energy. And so mine is not running, even though I did sign up for the Disney half marathon because I was like, oh, you're going to motivate yourself to do it. That's funny. I'm going to do it, but I just think it's funny. But I have to go like lift weights. Like usually I reserve my leg days for my reward. Now that might not be a reward for everybody, but a leg day is good. Like getting under a bar, and I can't squat like I used to in my PhD program, but I will mess up a leg press. Okay. I love it, and it helps. You may find that you need to do a running session or a walking session like halfway through or like multiple times as you're writing, because it might be the thing that keeps you going. Because a lot of anger and frustration builds up when we're writing. We don't know that's what it is. We think that it's, oh, I should have did this early, or I'm not trying hard enough. No, you need to go express some energy, and then when you come back, you'll have a clear head that you can even put like more words on the page. Okay, working out is so good for you. Get those endorphins going. And Winsome, wait, I think I emailed you. I'm gonna go check. Let me not lie to you, because you know me an email. Because I want you to come back. Okay. What was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought about that. It'll come back, y'all. But any questions? Okay. So let me go over, because I know people just got here. 5 reasons. My first question that I asked in this live is, are you writing at a minimum 10 pages a month? Especially for those of you in the dissertation phase, are you at a minimum writing 10 pages every month? Because inside of FYD, that's your expectation, that at a minimum, you are submitting 10 pages to your chair at the end of the month. There are 5 reasons why I find typically that people don't do that. Number 1 is they will tell me I don't have the time. And I would say it's because you're probably people pleasing. And that's why you don't have the time, because you're doing everything for everybody else and you're not prioritizing yourself, because you don't think you're worth it. You don't think that your goals and what you have going on is important enough, right? Not that I'm not saying that in the moment you're actively telling yourself it's not worth it, but I'm saying your actions are saying, oh, I mean, I could get to that. I'll do my stuff later. That is you saying I'm not worth it. It's most likely why you don't have the time. Number 2, but let's just say, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and say maybe you have a very demanding job and the whole like you're similar and that you have young kids. That's a real thing. You don't have the time. Number 2, I don't know how to do the thing that they're asking me to do. I don't know how to write the literature review. I don't know how to write the methods chapter. Right? That means, so you probably spend a lot of time reading because you don't know how to do the thing. Number 3, you don't have the energy. You may have the time, you may know how to do it, but you don't have the energy to do it. Meaning, like, you know, you got an outline, you understand, you had the conversation with your chair, but now you're like, I'm completely exhausted. And if we step back, it's not a physical exhaustion as much as it's an emotional exhaustion. That's what burnout is. Emotionally, you have checked out. You don't know why you're doing it anymore. You don't know what the purpose is. Reason 4 and 5, hold on to your edges. 4 is you're arrogant and 5 is you're entitled. What I mean by arrogance and entitlement is you think that your skills to become a doctor are better than what they actually are. Where this comes up when I'm talking to students is they're like, well, I have my own way of doing it, Dr. Lacey. I mean, I love your little scholar writing routine, but I got my own way. And then when I say, how is it working for you? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's not working for you. So maybe it doesn't work the way you think. It may have served a purpose in your master's program, in your undergrad, in high school, but this ain't that. This is about being a doctor. You got to develop your skills. You got to step them up. If you want to be a scholar who produces research on a regular, you're going to have to step up your skills. Does your skill match the level that you need them to be in order to be a doctor? How you know? Are you writing at least 10 pages a month? Entitlement comes in because then people will say, well, it shouldn't be like that. I've already put in my time. I've already paid my dues. I already did everything they asked me to do. I'm working really hard. And I think it was a couple of days ago in a live when I used the example from The Devil Wears Prada, when Andy, the main character, when she was crying to Nigel about how Miranda is so hard on her. And if you haven't watched this movie, please go watch the movie. You should read the book because it's 2 different things. But anyway, Andy, the main character, is like, Miranda is so hard on me. She's so mean. I'm trying so hard. And he was like, no, you're not. Yeah, you're showing up and you're going through the motions, but you're not trying. You're not really trying. Are you sure you're trying? It may feel like you're trying, but how do you know that you're actually trying? What objective, and this is the only time I use this word, but what objective evidence do you have that says you've been showing up? Can you tell me how many hours you set aside and you actually showed up to write? Can you show me what are the list of things that you completed, that you produce every week? Can you show me the pages that you were writing, whether they're shitty or not. Those are pieces of evidence that we can look at to say, yeah, you've been trying. Can you show me the notes from your chair when you met with them every week to say, hey, this is what's going on and this is where I'm having trouble? Can you show me what they said back to you? You can't. We don't have any evidence. Can you show me your plan that you make every Sunday? Oh, you can't. We don't have any evidence. Can you show me your brain dumps? Oh, you can't. We don't have any evidence. We focus a lot on how do you produce evidence. We build confidence, not motivation. Confidence comes from, I did it before, I could do it again. Or I have evidence that it's possible. If you're so busy focused on, I just need to get inspired, but you're not focused on building evidence, that is why you're standing in place. So the Scholar Writing Routine is 5 steps. First, you review your plan. You get very clear on, this is what I'm going to produce by the end of this writing session. You cut you do that stir bond, and then for 25 minutes, you just free write based on what you know already in your head. We don't read anything. We're not looking up anything. We're like, okay, I'm going to write 2 paragraphs about ethical leadership. Sounds good. Put the timer on, I write whatever comes to my mind. I take a break, I come back. Now I edit that free write. I remove all the random stuff, whatever. And I'm just trying to get it solid enough in 25 minutes. Take a break, come back. Now I go to the literature. It's like, okay, if I'm making this argument, excuse me, if I'm making this argument in my free write, how do I then go find literature to support what I'm saying? When you go to find literature to support what you're saying, you're going to look and be like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I could add that too. But now it's easier to add it in. You're not scrambling and trying to get your thoughts together because you already know what it is that you were trying to say. And so you can easily just add those new points in. You can add in the citations, and that process goes by quickly. Take a break, come back, and then do the formatting, the styling, the final edits, and then you turn it in to someone. If you are doing that process every week, at a minimum, you'll have about 2.5 pages a week. At a minimum, you'll have about 10 pages a month. The people who actually follow this process have way more. It's making me think about 2 people in general. Excuse me. Y'all, these allergies are doing the thing. Okay. It's making me think about 2 clients in particular. Number one, Jaria, who she started her qualifying exams, wrote them, defended them, and wrote her entire proposal in 2 months. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not mincing my words. Because she just followed this process. The way she was just so unbothered every week. She's like, okay, so what do I do this week? And then I would say, this is your assignment. And she'll go back and she'll come. And that is how she was able to do that in 2 months. Her chair went on vacation, or no, he got married and he had to come back. And when he came back, it was a whole proposal waiting for him. She's like, I'm not playing with you. I told you I'm defending my proposal in the fall. So you need to get on board, because he didn't believe it was possible for her to do all of that in such a short period of time. And I was like, listen, don't tempt me with a challenge, because I love coming up with a plan. I will make the impossible possible. It's also making me think about Camille, which some of you have seen me post on my page, and you can go follow her right now because she regularly gives dissertation updates. I had to the other day say, please go sit down. Stop, don't you dare pick up, but don't you go to another writing session, because she had got so much in a groove and she was feeling so excited that I think I checked in on her a week and she was finishing up her literature review. When I came back a week later, the entire proposal was done. It was submitted to the committee and she was like 75% through with the IRB. I said, wait a minute, we need a break. You got to take a break. When you get into a routine, when you start honoring how you just show up, you're going to get into the zone. You're going to be so locked in that people are going to have to be like, don't you want to take a break? And then that's going to be my coaching to you. Take a break. Yeah, you can trust yourself to come back, but we're going to take a break. If you want more of this, please come join me this weekend. So this weekend, y'all, every month we do a writing retreat, because my expectation is that you're writing a chapter a month. We give you writing sessions throughout the week, but we also do one large weekend at the end of the month. Why? Because life be lifing. Because people got all sorts of responsibilities and things pulling on their time. And then sometimes you're going to, like, your neurospiciness is going to kick in. Maybe your anxiety or depression is going to be like, hey, I'm here. And you may not be able to show up the entire month. But you may be able to say, oh, I'm going to show up to that writing retreat. I'm going to show up for a day. I'm going to show up for a couple of hours. It doesn't matter. We're just trying to provide the space for people. So what you're going to hear me talk about this weekend in particular how we set it up, it's Saturday and Sunday, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. For the first hour and a half every day, I do what's called an educational session. So this weekend is going to be about how do you overcome burnout. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about, first, Saturday is going to be, okay, what is going to be your plan? What is it that you're going to produce by the end of this writing retreat, as well as by the end of September? Because I don't want you to just come to a writing retreat and you're like, oh, that was good, boom. And then you get to Monday and you're like, now what do I do? You're going to have a plan. And we're going to do that on Saturday. On Sunday, I'm going to talk to you about, okay, let's talk about the realities of burnout. Let's talk about what it looks like. And let's talk about strategies for right now and moving forward, what you can do to ensure that if you get yourself in this position or you feel like you got yourself in a hole so deep that you can't get out, these are the steps you take to get out. I did a live similarly, I think Monday or Friday. So if you want to get an idea of what I'm going to talk about, that's close. I'm going to go deeper though. And we're going to have a conversation as a group. Sunday is always the day that people are like, I don't know if I need that. I don't need that. And then they come, they're like, that was the best day. That is the day when people are like, I need to be in this program. I don't know what you're doing, but I need it. So please join us. You can, if you type retreat in this, it'll give you the link so you can go sign up. Okay, is there a way to purchase a retreat package? I wasn't need to attend every retreat for the rest of the year. No, when you're inside of Finish Your Dissertation, you get access to the retreat for free. But I don't have any packages for you to pay for them for the year, but that is a great idea. So right now we're working on like a membership for time management. And what that's going to, so don't hold me to this because we're still planning. But so far what that's going to look like is you get to come to our Sunday calls where you make your plan and it guides you through our process. And you'll also get access to the monthly retreats. But yeah, it won't be a package, but it'll be like a monthly fee. And it'll be something like $50. It'll be lower than what we have right now. So that'll be coming probably November. So look out for that. But in the meantime, if you are anywhere near the dissertation and you like, I would say join FYD. I just got a message from somebody before I went live who was like, she's been in for 2 or 3 weeks and she's like, this is the most productive I've ever been. While actively fighting me when I'm like, you only need 10 hours. That's how people come in and like, 10 hours is not going to be enough. I'm like, you haven't worked the way I'm about to teach you how to work. Your 10 hours is going to be everybody else's 40 hours. And I mean that. Like when you look at what you've done at the end of, when you come on Sunday and you're like celebrating your wins and you're looking at how you've crossing out all these things, your brain is going to break a little bit because you're going to be like, how did I not know about this sooner? You just didn't have a process. And especially if you're neurospicy, meaning like neurodivergent, you most likely have been talking to people whose brains don't work like yours. The way my brain is set up, I live in neurospiciness land. I'm like, that's how I function. So I created a program for that. And I know even if you don't have any neurodivergence or anything, it's definitely going to work for you because it's already set up in small chunks and it's a process and you just got to follow the process. All right. Okay, y'all, I think I don't see anything else. Please consider attending this weekend. I'll be back tomorrow. I can't remember what tomorrow's topic is, but I know it's going to be good. But I want to say thank y'all for your time and attention. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.